Go ahead and get started. Okay, so welcome to a project management workshop. The project management workshop today is called Establish a Strong Project Plan and Boost Team Performance. My name is Saria Gaylord, and I am a certified project manager and the owner of Orchestrating Your Success. And Orchestrating Your Success is a project management company, and we help manage internal and external projects for our clients. So, just some housekeeping rules. Please place yourself on mute. During the presentation, I will stop along the way to give you a chance to ask questions or also allow you to ask questions towards the end of the presentation. All right, so let's get started. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose of planning, establishing a strong project plan, boosting team performance, and then I'm going to give you some resources that you can take back and review later. Okay, so let's look at the purpose of planning. So, what is the purpose of planning? The purpose of planning is to provide a roadmap to project success. Now, without a plan, you and your project team will probably struggle to get to where you need to go to get the project complete, or sometimes it will be straight out project failures. And just to kind of give you a stat, 12% of project failures are due to the lack of planning. So, what does planning do? It tells you where you're going, where you were, where you are, and when you go to your final destination. So let me give you an example. So I'm originally from Albany, New York, and every summer our family used to travel down to Rockingham, North Carolina, and we used to drive down there. And we used to stay the summer. Usually it was July and August, and then come back home. So if you think about this journey, we have to first figure out, okay, what cars were we taking because there was usually about 10 of us going down there every summer. So what cars are we taking? What's the budget going to be? Because we have to pay for gas, we have to pay for tolls, because there's tolls between Albany and North Carolina. We have to figure out, what highways we're going to take. We have to figure out when we're going, the best time to stop during the journey. We have to figure out when we were going to stop for gas, when we are going to stop to go to the restroom, when we were going to stop to eat. So if you think about that drive from Albany, New York to North Carolina, Rockingham, North Carolina, it's very similar to what our projects go through, right? We have major milestones, we have tasks that we need to get done. We have resources that we have to attach to each of these different tasks that we have in our project plan. Planning is a roadmap. If you don't have a plan, how do you know where you're going? And a lot of times when projects get in trouble and they ask me to come in to help with, getting their projects on track, most of the time they do not have a project plan. They went straight from, defining the goals of the project straight into executing. And, my question is always, what are you executing if you don't have a plan, okay, in place to get you to where you need to go? There's a quote that states, proper planning prevents poor performance. So this really has to do with the performance of the plan that you're executing. If you have, if you don't have a viable plan that you know is going to work. Now we all been there where we like putting things together really fast and be like, okay, we can, do this. But when you're looking at having a project, and these projects are now becoming complex, no longer are they just, simple 10-step kind of plans. A lot of these plans are becoming complex, or you're dealing with not just people in the US, you're dealing with people internationally. You're dealing with multiple vendors and consultants all around the world. So these plans and these projects have become more complex. And if you don't have a plan for people to look at to see what they're doing, what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do, you're probably looking at project failure. Another thing about proper planning prevents poor performance is that 80% of employees are now spending half their time doing rework. So what does that tell me about the plan? The plan was never viable in the beginning. Okay. If they're spending 80% of the time doing rework, that tells me that maybe the requirements wasn't correct or done correctly or poorly done, or there's probably was the tasks were probably very vague. Okay. Which all is going to lead to project failure if you don't have a viable plan in place. And then another thing I want to point out, if you are a project manager or a project leader, either or, planning is a team effort. You know, sometimes a project manager or a leader who's leading it will take on the responsibility of defining all of the different task durations and resources on a project. And that's not the way that this planning takes place. Planning is a team effort. That means you need to bring in the people that are expert in a certain field or department. So for instance, if there is an IT component of the project plan, you need to bring in the IT experts to come, sit down and say, okay, these are the requirements. What are the tasks associated with the IT department? And then you guys can discuss and develop the task for that piece of it. When we get in trouble is when, as a project manager or leader, we take on the role of getting the project planning together and then say, here you go, right? Without really talking to the project team and getting the feedback to making sure that the plan is viable. Okay. And that's the key to planning. You have to have a viable plan, because if you don't have a viable plan, I can almost guarantee you that the project is going to fail. So when you talk about the purpose of planning, it's a roadmap. It's going to tell you everything you need to know and everything that needs to be done and all the resources that need to be on that plan, how long it's going to take, what is your budget, what is the change management plan on any changes going on in your project. So that is the purpose of planning. So let's talk about establishing a strong project plan. So I have this phrase that I came up with because I was noticing a lot of people doing certain things, especially when it comes to a to-do list. So the quote I came up with is, a to-do list is not a project plan. A to-do list is not a plan, okay? So if you're using a to-do list to manage your plan, you're off to the wrong spot, okay? What is a to-do list? A to-do list is a time management tool. It's not a plan, right? It's a time management tool, and it's there to help you manage your time, not manage the project time, okay? So make sure you understand what a to-do list is, making sure that you're not managing this complex project with a to-do list, because you're not going to be very successful if you do it that way, okay? So I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna give anyone time to talk about the purpose of planning and a to-do list versus a project plan. Does anyone have any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. So let's talk about the 5 phases of project management. So the 5 phases of project management is this. Phase 1, initiate. The objective is to find the goal. 2, planning. The objective is create the plan, which we're going to focus on today. Phase 3, execute. Execute the plan. Phase 4, monitor and control, check the work. Phase 5, close. Close out the project. This is the 5 phases of project management. This is the structure that when you have an active project, this is how the project will move through each of these different phases. And you can't do one phase or move to the next phase unless the other phase is completed. But I teach a class on this 5 phases of project management. We're not going to go through it today, but just know this is the structure. This is the structure that you need to have in place when you have active projects, whether they're internal projects or they're your client's projects, okay? But we're gonna, again, focus on phase 2, planning, create the plan. Okay, so phase 2 planning, the objectives again is create the plan. Now, all of these I have listed here are the components of planning. Now, everything in green that I have listed is usually what people think about when they talk about a project plan, because this information really goes into the project management tool or software that people are using to track their projects, right? So if you're using Microsoft Project, or if you're using Trello, Asana, Smartsheet, Monday, the items in green is usually what you'll see in the project plan, right? So you'll see the task, you'll understand, the sequence of the task. You'll see the resources assigned to the different tasks, whether they're internal, externals, or vendors or clients. You'll see the resources. So if there's a resource component in there, you'll see that. And then you'll also see the budget. So those are pretty much well known for people when they talk about planning, but there's so much more to planning than just the project plan itself. These other items in blue are part of the planning as well. So if you want to understand and have a strong project plan, you not only have to understand, the green items in green, but you also have to understand the blue items are part of planning. So let me just kind of go through this so you understand all of the components of having a strong project plan. The scope management plan, defining the scope of the project, right? What is most important to me when I look at the scope management plan, what's in scope, what's out of scope. Very important to understand that, because sometimes, people think that, oh, this is in scope. Let's go back to our, scope management plan and understand, no, this is actually out of scope. Okay. So I have to understand and have that document ready so that you can refer to it as you're moving through the project plan, so that it keeps you on track on what is already approved and not approved on the project. Because, sometimes people will try to slip some things in, and then you don't have the budget, you don't have the resources to take on the additional scope. Okay, so one thing you need to understand, you have to have a scope management plan. Another plan that you need to have is what I call a requirements plan. And this is to help track all of the different requirements on the project plan. I like this document because I put all the requirements on there. So when I am planning with the project team, I need to make sure I have a task for each of those different requirements on the project plan, so I don't miss anything, right? And I'm just kind of just checking them off. Okay, we have IT, IT has their tasks together for this particular plan. So I can check it off to make sure that I am capturing all of the requirements on the project plan, and that they have, the defined tasks and scope and resources assigned to them. So that's a good document to have. Another document that you need to have is a communication plan. How are you going to communicate with the team? You need to plan that out. You just can't say, okay, I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to do that. No, you have to plan it out. how you're going to communicate. Don't forget, you have different people coming in and out of your project at any given time. You also have different stakeholders. You have your internal team that you have to communicate with, which is going to be different from how you communicate with your external team, which is how you're going to communicate with your vendors and consultants. Those right there are three different buckets of how you need to and understand how you're going to communicate on the plan. And then if you kind of just go further down, right? The way you communicate to a vice president is going to be different how you communicate to an analyst, right? What kind of meetings are you going to have? You know, who's going to be involved in those meetings? What kind of reports are you going to disseminate? That's all part of your communication plan. And this plan should be reviewed on a monthly basis to make sure that you're keeping up with the communication plan as the project is moving along. Because sometimes you do need to change it because from the beginning to where you're at, let's say you're in the middle of the plan, you may not need may not need an additional meeting that you can take out, right? Because that piece of it is done. Okay. So again, communication plan is important. A risk management plan. How do you identify risk? Every project has risk, whether it's a small or large risk. Every project has risk. How do you identify those risks? You need to identify those risks. You need to understand how you're going to plan for the risk if it shows up in your project. And then also sometimes there's a cost to that particular risk once you start planning it out. So for example, I used to work for a company and they had a facility in Jamaica. Every time we did a project plan, a project in Jamaica, one of the risks we always had was hurricanes, right? Because they're, the islands prone to hurricanes. So that was always a risk for us in our projects. And different industries have different risks. And, some of the, hey, we got to put this on here because it's just the nature of the industry itself. But identifying those risks and having a plan for it is very important because if you don't have a plan for those risks that could happen, it can derail your project. Okay. So another plan that you need to have is a project quality plan. These are the project metrics or the KPIs, some people call them. How are you going to know if your project is on track? How do you know if you're on track with your schedule? How do you know if you're on track with your budget? How do what's the remaining budget? What's the remaining schedule? Okay. You want to have metrics so you understand where your project is and if there's any adjustments that need to be made or if there's any issues that may come up that you need to resolve before it becomes a bigger issue. Also with this, you may have other metrics that you want to measure because that project may be a project where it may disrupt other processes that you have in place as a business, or it may disrupt other applications, especially if you're doing like an upgrade on a application or you're bringing in new applications into the system. You don't want to be in a place where, the project that you're implementing is going to knock out or disrupt your other processes and systems that you have in place. So understand what those metrics are so that you can make sure that, you're not, like I said, disrupting or causing chaos in other processes and businesses or other systems in your business. So creating a quality plan is important. Documentation plan. How are you going to be able to document and save all of these different components on your plan? What project management software are you going to use? Now, I mentioned some project management software that you can use. There's Microsoft Project, there is Asana, Trello, Smartsheet, Monday. There are just so many different softwares out there. In my opinion, they all do the same thing, but the difference is the look and feel. Some softwares are more visual than others. I'm a more of a detail person, so I don't really need the visuals, but some people are more of a visual person, and they like the pictures and stuff like that. But it's okay. Whatever works for you, just understand what software you're going to use so that it can help you track the project plan more efficiently. But also, where are you going to store these documents? If you have additional documents or different additional plans, where is that going to be stored? Who's going to have access to what folders in your system? Okay. And then where are you going to archive all the documentation once the project is done, which is very important because, if you do similar projects, in your business, you always want to look at how you did on your last project, right? Sometimes you want to use that project management plan or some of the documents that was used on the last plan as well. So you want to keep and have an archive process where people can access those documents for additional planning or better estimation. All of that would help with any upcoming projects that you have. Stakeholder plan. Identify individuals impacted by the project. Very important. You want to make sure that you understand who is being impacted by the project, whether it's by departments or by processes, whatever that is. You want to make sure that person is brought into the project so that they understand what's going on with the project and how it impacts them in their department. And let me tell you, I've worked on a project where I forgot to add a stakeholder to the project that I was doing, and that person was not happy at all. All right, very hostile, and it that person actually almost derailed the project. Okay, so understanding who's being impacted and bringing them into the project, and so that they can also give feedback, and then that they also can help you with planning out the different tasks of the project as well. So, and then the stakeholders can be any internal and external as well. So make sure you bring those in because actually they're going to be part of your communication plan. Okay. And then the last thing is the change management plan. How do you deal with change on your project? You have to have a plan and steps to deal with that. Otherwise, changes are just going to happen in your project and it's going to increase your schedule. It can also increase your budget. It can also, bring in additional resources that you have no idea what's going on as a project manager. So you have to have a plan in place with the different steps on how changes are going to be dealt with on your project. Okay. And then also with change management, I can tell you, if there's changes going on and changes not being approved by your client, most times, sometimes they won't pay you and they will tell you, well, you didn't get this approved from us. But, I was in a meeting and, the manager wanted to do this and we did it. Well, you didn't get it approved. So we're not going to pay you. And so, then you go back and forth and all that other stuff, right? So again, have a plan in place to deal with changes in your project. So as you can see, planning is more than just a project plan. These are the components of planning if you want to have a strong project plan so that your team can implement. Okay. So I'm going to stop right here. Does anyone have any questions about the components of planning?
I'm okay. It's very clear, Sarita. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions about the components of planning and what needs to be in a plan?
The components are clear. It just sounds like a lot of time.
You know what? It depends. It depends. So remember I said that the documentation archive. If you are a type of company that does the same types of projects all the time, right? You can use the previous information from your previous project to bring that in, and guess what? All you have to do is edit. Okay.
Good point.
So that's one tools and techniques you can use. But if you have or doing projects that you've never done before, this becomes extremely important, right? Because you got to set the bar, you got to set the baseline, right? For any other projects that may come in for a particular project. Now, when I was working at a corporation, we did a lot of solutions, right? And I just use the same project plan. I just use the same plans, right? I brought it over, and then we took a look at everything. And so it's like, this got to change, this got to change, this got to change. Okay, we need to update the durations. Okay, well, Bob is not here anymore, so we need to update and provide a different resource, right? It becomes extremely, I should say, it helps with time, okay, if you're doing the same type of projects. But if you're doing something new, yes, it's going to be time consuming, okay? But again, it's going to make sure you have a viable plan at the end where you know and your team know or is confident that this is going to work, right? Because if you guys don't have the confidence that it's going to work, then the project will probably fail, okay? And then, when I talk, I do, like I said, I do other project management workshops on the whole 5 phases, and I have templates for everything. And the good thing about using a project management software, they have templates for all this stuff. Okay, so you're not like starting from scratch. You can just update the columns that you really need and take out the columns that you don't need and go from there. Okay.
Do you have a specific software that you recommend?
Well, I use whatever my clients use, but for me, I really like Smartsheet. Okay. They have a lot of templates for anything that you need. But I am also a MS Project person as well. And MS Project, they have a lot more reports and reporting that you can use, right? Especially when it comes to status reports. Oh, I need a report for this. I need a report for that. It's very easy to, do it. So like I said, different software does different things. So you just need to understand, which one is best for you. Okay. And then there's just a lot of things out there on the web that will come up with a requirements plan, a communication plan. What does that look like as well? Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I have this video that I want you all to look at, and it says why project planning matters. And it's a kind of fun kind of video, so let me play it. I hope it's good. Let me end this real quick. Oh, here it is. Won't shake. Okay, so in this video, we see things that like, I was always wondering about the house with the pole and the drive-through. Was that like a requirement or something? But that went awfully wrong, right? So you can see how planning can go very wrong very fast if we don't understand and have a viable plan in place. Okay, so let's talk about boost team performance. Oops, let me go back here. There we go. Okay, so if you want to boost team performance, you want to make sure that you have and pay attention to these 4 things on my screen, because all of these can lead to project failure, okay? And actually, these are some of the reasons why projects fail. But again, if you do them right, it'll boost team performance and actually boost productivity on your project as well. So make sure you understand what the requirements are. You know, sometimes we miss a requirement. Sometimes the requirements are vague and the team is not going to understand what's going on with these requirements if they're not clear. And if you miss any requirements, trust me, it's going to show up during your executing phase when you're trying to execute and you can't execute because you forgot a requirement that needs to be done and task needs to be on there. So it'll reveal itself if you're missing something. Same thing with tasks. If you're missing something, it's going to show up in the executing piece of it. Be like, hey, we forgot to do this, right? Or we forgot to do that, or, you know, the task is unclear. That's why when I talked a little bit earlier about the stats, 80% of employees spent half their time doing rework. And that's a stat that came out for 2020. This is why: unclear requirements and unclear tasks. Another thing, communication plan. If you don't have a communication plan in place, you're not communicating with the team, again, it can lead to project failure. But again, if these things are done correctly, it will boost team performance and productivity. And then another one here is change management. How to deal with changes that come in on your project. So it's almost like a double sword, right? Because if you do them correctly, you get this result over here. If you don't do them correctly, then you get the negative result over here. So just please pay attention to these 4 things. Well, you got to pay attention to all the components of a plan, but these 4 things actually really affects the project team and the individuals who are actually performing the tasks. Okay. So I came across this quote. It says, if everyone is moving forward together on a project, success takes care of itself. Now, there's a couple of things in here about moving forward and project success. One of the things that you have to have project management in place in your business if you want to have successful projects. Here's another stat for you. Only 21% of companies have project management process in place. Only 21%. So if you do not have a project management process in place, you know, don't expect your projects to be successful. You're probably going to struggle all the way through. Okay. So when I talked about the 5 phases of project management, that's what I'm talking about. That gives you structure on how you do project management in your business. That's the structure, just like any other structure or process you have in your business, right? And I give the example of, you know, McDonald's. You know, McDonald's fries, they taste the same anywhere you go, whether you're in Arizona, California, Texas, right? They have a structure in place. They have steps in place. They'll tell you, this is how long you should cook the fries, right? This is, what you should be cooking them in, right? They have a structure in place of how to cook fries. Same thing with projects. You need to have a system in place of how to deal and bring in projects, and what is those steps from, when you first start the project to the how you end the project. And that's your structure, how you do not just clients projects, but any of your internal projects as well. Okay. And then also I wanted to say that because only 21% of companies have project management in place, 70% of projects fail outright, right? And that's according to last year's stats. 70% of projects fail outright. So don't be a statistic. Don't be a statistic. And make sure you have the structure in the place. And then again, this workshop is about having a strong, viable project plan so that you and your team can take it and just execute what's on the plan. Okay, without struggling to figure out what I need to do and who's doing what. The plan will give you all of that information, and as a project manager or leader, you're managing that plan to make sure that you are moving forward, that you all are moving forward together. And the key thing is that at the end, you want to have success. You want that project to be a success. And if you have a viable project plan, like this quote says, success takes care of itself. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some resources. So if you're thinking about becoming a certified project manager or any other certifications, just so you know, I think it was last year, being a certified project manager, I think when it ranks in other different certifications, it's number 8 on the list for certification. So if you're looking to increase your skill level, if you want to become a certified project manager, go to the Project Management Institute, what we call the PMI. They are the governing body on certifying project managers. And also on their website, they have different aspects, they teach different aspects of project management as well. So you want to learn a little bit more about the 5 phases of project management, what they call the waterfall method, or if you want to learn a little bit more about agile and just different aspects of project management, because there's a lot of things about project management I can talk on and that they have. So go to that website, pmi.org. Also, I have a blog, and I also have a podcast called Project Management for Entrepreneurs podcast. And we go through and talk about different aspects of project management that can help you with your business. I do have a free download, and it's called What is Project Management? To give you that foundation about what are the 5 phases of project management, what's in each different phase that you need to know about. And it kind of gives you, again, that foundational piece of, okay, if I want to implement project management, this is how you can take that document and this is how you can do it. I do want to say that every project is unique and every project is different. Okay, so don't expect every project to be the same. It's always going to be a little different here and there. But the question that you have to answer as a business is, how do I do project management in my business? I work for many companies, and even if they have the same process, it's still different. They still do it differently. No 2 companies are the same. Okay, so again, it's up to you to understand, how do I do project management in my business? This is my contact information. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I will definitely meet with you and we can talk about your active projects or your upcoming projects and how you want to set up your project management process, or to just get some about some ideas on how you should do a particular project in your business. So that is it. Thank you all for coming. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
Hi, Sabrina. Very nice presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm trying to download the document that you mentioned on the last slide, but I can't find it. Do you have a specific link so we can download it?
Yes. So let me give you that link. Hold on one. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Okay. And while I'm looking for that, does anyone else have any other questions?
No questions. Well done.
Well, thank you. You know, as you're doing your projects, don't hesitate to reach out to me about your project. Even if you have a question, you know, send me a email, and I'll be happy to talk to you and you know, give you some feedback, because I definitely want you to be successful in implementing projects and be successful with the projects that you have. So hold on one second. Let me send you the link.
Thank you.
So that is the link. I put the link in the chat. So that is the free download. So if you go there, kind of just fill some information out and you'll be able to download that. And if you have any feedback from me on that download, please don't hesitate to send me an email, let me know if I'm missing anything. Well, any other questions before we close this out? Okay. Well, again, thank you all for coming. I will probably have another one, maybe on a different topics. So if you guys have any suggestions on some topics that you would like to hear about, let me know. You know, I will not be opposed to talking about a certain issue or item that you need for your business. But again, thank you everyone for joining me today. And I hope to see you all on my next project management workshop. You all enjoy yourself today and have a nice weekend.
You too. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.